morning and welcome to Wednesday. It's June 28th, 2023. And that means it's time for the Education Town Hall here on We Act Radio, which is located in the heart of downtown Anacostia, Southeast, Ward 8, Washington, D.C. However, we are now coming to you live from our virtual platforms that I consider to be Anacostia adjacent. I first want to begin by thanking the creator for this day and for the opportunity to present to you the latest installment of the Education Town Hall. This is your humble servant and host, Thomas Bird, and I will be joined shortly by my associate producer, Valerie Jablo. I think, folks, we're going to have a great show in store for you today. I say that every time I open up, but I really mean it today because we're joined by my favorite folks, students, young people. That's who I love to have on the show. In fact, we're going to be joined by Jasmine Graham, who's a sophomore at Ballou, which is my alma mater. I just enjoyed my 50th reunion this past weekend. Samari Short, who is supposed to join us as well. Anisha Perry is a junior at Anacostia. LaGeorgia Callahan, who is supposed to join us, who's a sophomore at Anacostia. We also have two staff members, Sion DeBose, who's the lead organizer for Black Swan Academy, as well as their executive director, Samantha Davis of Black Swan Academy. And so I want to begin with you, Samantha. Just want you to kind of paint a picture for us, set the stage, if you will, and let us know a little bit about your background, why you started Black Swan Academy, what the mission and goals of Black Swan Academy are.
Sure. Thank you so much for having us. Hello, everyone. I'm again Samantha Davis. I use she, they pronouns, and I'm the founder and executive director of Black Swan Academy. Black Swan Academy started this work during the aftermath of the Trayvon Martin verdict. And so if you all remember during that time, for me as a young person at the time, it was 24 at grad school at American University. I was seeing firsthand the injustices of our system. I was seeing the criminalization of Black young people play out, not just in the court system, but also in the media and in society more broadly. And so that sparked me and others into action to create space for young people to organize, for young people to be able to shift the narrative, to control the narrative, to speak their truth, and to give them the tools to create change. And so that was 2013, 2014. Here we are almost 10 years later, and we are working with middle school and high school Black youth, mostly in Ward 7, Ward 8, Ward 5, but really all throughout DC. And these are brilliant young people. We stand by pride, purpose, and power. And young people have really been leading change. They've been naming the issues that impact them most directly. And they've also been pushing for the solutions that they know are best.
Sounds wonderful. I want to say right at the top here that We Act Radio is a community partner of Black Swan Academy, and we are actually very proud to be that. And we're glad to be joined by the young people, especially Jasmine. I'm going to lean on you because you're a balloon knight. But I won't do that right now. What I'm going to do now is swing over because we have so much to talk about. So we want to get started. I'm going to swing over to Valerie and get her to start this conversation.
Well, thank you, Thomas, and thank you all for being here. This is really wonderful and something that I have long wanted to do. I thought about this show with respect to policing in DC schools because Black Swan Academy youth have been at the center of every hearing, every public conversation about police in our publicly funded schools. And the youth have powerfully organized on this. So I did want to start with you, Jasmine, if you didn't mind, talking about how you got involved with Black Swan Academy and why. And then Anisha, I want you to jump in as well, because I think that's so central to the strength. And I really want to emphasize this. You guys have been so strong in your advocacy, and it's really a beautiful thing to see. So take it away, Jasmine, please.
Okay. I went to Charlestown Middle School, and they had came up to my school, and they had offered a position, basically asking me did I want to participate in a group called Black Swan. And I really didn't know what Black Swan was, but I'm like, it's a new group. So, okay, I started in 6th grade. So, like, I was just starting off. So, I just went down there, and basically they helped me advocate for myself and just helped me become the person I am now. So, doing virtual, they really didn't have nothing doing virtual, but 6th grade and 8th grade leading up, I started to actually participate in Black Swan and do all the rides and stuff that we do now. And yeah,
What were some of the things you were doing? You say you participated. What were some of the things you started doing?
basically it's like protesting. If they had protests, we protest about our things, then we had riots, or like we would go to town hall meetings. We do that, and just go being active in the meetings that we would have.
Fantastic. Anisha?
Um, in sixth
That's why I'm
grade,
saying stay up, stay unmuted. That's so we won't have that delay. Go ahead.
okay. In 6th grade, I was friends with Tamika and Samari and them. And one day, like, I just kept seeing them, like stay after school, and like they had something to do after school, and it's like I wanted something to do after school too. So they had like it was people when they was doing like the little like get together for Black Swan, like trying to get more people to kind of Black Swan. I had went and I was like kind of interested in Black Swan, so I went for a little bit, and then I started liking it, and they empowered me on my voice and helped me like stop being so quiet and like speaking up for things that I wanted. And I
Okay,
went to school, middle school.
so for you it was more a beginning personal development to help you grow and to be out more outspoken and to stand up for yourself. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes.
Fantastic. Valerie?
So I wanted to ask if Sion DeBose would introduce herself, because she's a staff member at Black Swan Academy and had been on this show when she too was a student in DC's schools. So I wanted you to just introduce yourself, Sion, if you could.
Hey y'all, my name's Sion. All pronouns are respect. I am the lead organizer with Black Swan. I too have been in Black Swan since middle school. I'm a DC 2020 DC graduate, so I've been in the work for a very long time. Um, yeah, that's about it.
What high school did you graduate from?
I graduated from Idea Public Charter School.
Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. I think
Samari.
I'm sorry, Samari Short is now joining us. Samari, can you hear us? And would you unmute yourself, please?
Yes, I can hear y'all.
Fantastic. And you're a graduate of Eastern of this year, correct?
Yes,
Fantastic. Congratulations to you.
thank you.
Um, and thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved and why you got involved with Black Swan.
So I got involved with Black Swan when I was in 6th grade. So I've been a part of Black Swan for like 7 years now. The reason I joined Black Swan in the first place was because I can see that there were like a lot of problems in my community and a lot of problems within my school building that were not basically being handled by youth. And they were just like not getting anything done from my perspective. So when I found out about Black Swan, I'm like, finally I can do something about that. So that's what I did. And I've been, like I said, I've been a part of it for 7 years and, been pushing on and continuing doing the work because, you know, it's hard to understand with what the youth need when you're not involving the youth in the conversation.
So let me ask you this. You just raised a very important point. First of all, let me say I really highly respect each of you for being involved because I think every youth, every child, every student should be involved in their education process, and I'm an advocate of that 100%. So, what are some of the things that have been involved with over the 7 years?
Over the 7 years, I would say I've done plenty of protests. I've done plenty of community like community work, like going outside in the community, asking people what they need, giving them um, healthcare advice and healthcare stuff like what did they call mutual aid things? So like giving them food, giving them um, like stuff like socks, giving them water, giving them anything, basically anything that they ask. That even hygiene things. We've also been working on a lot of other stuff with actual like lawyers, so like creating bills and stuff like that, because we can see that a lot of stuff that are being made to bills are not really made to protect certain age groups, not certain age group, but a certain group of people. Um, what else have I done? I've been on a I've been a co-author of a book about the school dress code and how sexist it was when I was in like 7th grade. Um I've
What
done
is
a lot.
the title of that book?
Honestly, I can't remember. It's been a really long time. Miss Samantha, do you remember?
Black.
called
I feel like it was called Dress Coded, right?
yeah.
Okay.
With the
So
National Women's Law Center. Go ahead, Sion.
now I was about to say it's called dress coded. That's
Okay.
about it.
Okay.
So Jasmine, as well as Anisha, you're still in school in your respective schools. What do you do? Do you do anything in your respective schools with under the guise of Black Swan? Any work for Black Swan in your particular schools?
Can you repeat your question?
Yeah, in your schools, because Anisha, you go to Anacostia. Is there anything that you do um, regularly or routinely at Anacostia uh, uh, in terms of the work for Black Swan?
Um, just I'm gonna say really just talking about like keeping the schools up and like adding like I know like on our Black Youth Agenda, one of them is sanitation in schools, and I talking to like the AP about like putting like sanitation things inside the girls' bathrooms and also fixing the bathrooms and keeping them clean so that way it's better for and healthy for the kids to come to school and actually want to engage.
And that's exactly what I was trying to get to. The advocate for student issues at your school, and that's good. Jasmine, is there anything you want to add?
One of our issues also is mental health, and I have the CET class in school, and basically, it's like it helps you build up your career. And we sometimes like during fourth period, we have to make a PowerPoint on like what you want to change in the school. And one of my um one of my PowerPoints was about making a safe room in the school, basically helping out with mental health because in Blue, you're definitely gonna go through a lot of mental health problems. So I offered to put a safe room in Blue.
Fantastic.
Wow.
Back to you, Valerie.
I was curious to know what this is something that Sion mentioned to me before the show, and I wanted to ask all of you, what is the Black Youth Agenda? You referenced it, Anisha. I would like to know, like, how are you defining it? any of you, please take it away. Samari, maybe you want to jump in here since you've been here for 7 years working
Yeah,
with
I
Black.
can do it. So basically, the Black Youth Agenda is something that we create, I think, every 3 years. Am I right, Ms. Smith? 2 years. Okay. Every 2 years, we create a Black Youth Agenda. This is where we come up with 4 issues that we want to work on the most. Obviously, in our city and in our schools and in our communities, there are a lot of problems. But in order for us to get to the root of the problem, we need to focus on them at like one at a time. So we create these four things that we want to work on, these 4 problems, and then those are what we work on for 2 years. And every 2 years we change them up, or we can keep them the same, but we give them a different name.
So what are the current set of 4 issues that you have been working on, the 3 students here?
So one, we have sanitation in schools. I think one of them is hopes and homes. The other one is it communities down? That name is long.
Community grounds, guns down.
Communities.
Yeah.
And speak more to, I love that you all are naming the titles because you put a lot of creative energy into that, but people don't know what the titles mean. So what are the actual issues or the problems that you all are trying to get at? And then Nisha or Jasmine, if you all can join, because it looks like Samari had to step away.
For mental health, is Hear Us Heal Us, which is basically we want more like non-mandated reporters inside of our schools. We need more we need more social workers and stuff like that inside of our schools for the kids that are like that really need it, like they really need the help and are really are going through stuff. Like I know in Anacostia we literally only have like 3 social workers, and a lot of kids like, and then like it'd be like because we only have a little amount of social workers that like too many kids be needing help at one time, and then the social workers can't help.
So I did want to ask you, because students from Black Swan have spoken out so clearly against having police in our schools. And before the show, Thomas was noting that when he attended Ballou, there were no police in schools. So somewhere along the line, somebody decided to put police in schools. And we were discussing this, and the issue is the idea of keeping students safe. And I wanted to have this show with Black Swan on this topic, because this is it's in every corner of the discussions around our schools in DC and around our youth in DC. For instance, the mayor has a new crime bill called Safer and Stronger, and she's proposed incarcerating youth before they have a trial, and I'm quoting, for their own good. So, I mean, it's just astonishing to me. Like, Ms. Davis talked about starting Black Swan in response to the criminalizing of Black youth. And here we are all these years later, and we're doing it here in DC. We're criminalizing our youth. So I wanted you guys to talk a bit about that. In your schools, in how you see it in DC and how you've advocated on it. So
if we could get Samantha to kind of give us the broad brushes of that, and then we can have the students kind of fill in some detail.
Right.
Yeah, sure. So Black Swan Academy, as was mentioned, we were founded in order to decriminalize or stop the policing and criminalization of Black youth. We are seeing that in DC increasingly in the past year or so, in that past George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, we're seeing a lot of backtracking. And so what we know in DC is that we have police, also known as SROs, in schools. We have police from MPD outside of our schools. Young people are experiencing policing on their way to schools. And so young people, particularly Black young people in Ward 7 and Ward 8, Ward 5, are extremely over-policed. And in our schools—
Let me ask you a question. Why do you think that is the case? Why are police in schools, around schools? Why do you think that is?
Yeah, so there's a number of reasons why. What we would name is that it's a failed attempt at one, keeping people safe, and two, relying on systems that aren't meant to get at the root cause. So for young people, we know the reasons that they're policed in schools are for normal adolescent behavior, which police wouldn't be the experts to deal with that. For responses to trauma, which again, police wouldn't be the experts to deal with that. Or for survival needs, for a lack of resources. Again, police wouldn't be the ones to deal with that. And so instead of being able to invest or choosing to radically invest in the things that we know will get at the root causes, the mental health supports, the housing, the what have you, the counseling, we instead take what I would call this shortcut of let's just police our way out of social inequities. Um,
So let me ask a question. I'll go back to Valerie after this. Do you think police have any role in the safety of students in schools?
I believe that the role of police and law enforcement are to enforce laws. It is not preventative. If we want true safety, then we need to be preventative, and police are not a preventative force.
So I guess you're leaning towards no.
So I would say no, and I would say it for that reason. Not, and I frame it that way because the pushback we have gotten is this idea that we don't believe that safety is an issue, and that's not the case. In fact, what we're saying is we haven't done enough around safety, and if we actually want safety, then we need to stop the harm from being caused in the first place. Police come after that.
And don't get me wrong, because I agree, as Valerie mentioned a moment ago, when I attended Hart Blue, we had no resource officers in schools. There was an officer that hung around a little bit from time to time as a part of his beat, but we had no organized policing in schools, and so I'm in agreement. I'd like to get back to that. So, but I on this show, I always try to play devil's advocate. So don't think I'm not in your camp, because I am. But I want to see the other side. I want folks to hear and see the other side of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, students, do you want to chime in on what Samantha just said? Your own experiences with regard to policing in schools?
Yes, I would love to.
Sure, go ahead.
I love it when a person plays devil advocate. That's my favorite thing in the world.
Okay.
So basically, to answer your question, just to let you know again, I did go to Eastern Senior High School, and I know you mentioned Baloo and Hart, but if you were to go to Eastern Senior High School, we have a routine of security at our school. We have at least 2 security, not even 2, at least 3 to 4 security on each floor. And we have like 3 of them at each door. Okay? So let's get that out the way. One thing I would say is about the Murray Bowser thing. This is a situation where you have grown people making decisions for youth without involving the youth. Like I said, they may seem like they're involving the youth, but they're not, because they're only getting one side. They know who to pick on who's going to tell them what they need to tell them. They're not actually getting kids that will tell them the truth, because those kids that they pick, they give rewards to. Those are the kids that are getting benefits from them. Like they'll put them in this. What does Trayon White do? He has a group of kids that he meets with, majority boys, but he has a group of kids that he meets with, and they get benefits from him.
So let me interrupt. So folks will know Trayon White is the Ward 8 council member here in the District of Columbia.
We know that.
Oh, yeah, but I'm just saying for those not on the panel, but those who are listening to the show. So we have folks outside of DC that listen to the show. So, and you're saying that the council member has a group of youth that he sits down with and talks to about the various issues, and you're saying they're not the right students or youth to be at the table with him. Is that what I'm hearing you saying?
I'm not saying they're not the right students because that would be disrespectful to them. I'm just saying that he gets kids that are going to tell him what he wants to know. He
Okay.
gets kids that are going to tell him what he wants to hear. He's not going to get kids that are going to tell him the truth. He's not going to get kids that don't show up to school because they don't feel safe going to school or in their communities. He's not going to get people like that because those are not the kids that are going to tell him what he needs to know. And if that was the case, he would have been working with Black Swan about all the issues that we've been going through and that we've been trying to work with him and talk to him about, but he doesn't do that.
So
So,
now we're breaking some news here. So you're saying that the council member Trayon White has refused to work with Black Swan?
Can I
yes.
can I can I can I step in really quickly?
Sure, please jump in. This is open
Um,
forum.
Go ahead,
I
Sam.
want to say so. First, everything Samari saying is true. I want to say that I feel like um not just Trayon, a lot of council members, a lot of people, a lot of community leaders have a tendency of how do I say this? Working with a direct group. I want to say I don't want to, and I feel like those. Hmm, we hear a lot from council that there aren't numbers that represent that SROs or police don't keep us safe. And I feel like, and I'm gonna use what somebody said of the select number of youth. I feel like they interview and survey youth that they in their specific ward or there's that's in their specific like line. I want to say, and so they're not getting the numbers they need. They're getting the numbers like somebody said they want. I don't want to say Trayon don't necessarily. He refuses to work with. I do want to say that there are um all of them have their tendency. There are a lot of work that we do that a lot of them don't feel how I say it. They don't put a lot of more effort in towards our work than they would do like specifically other things. And that's as like with the mayor implementing her budget, she's done this like twice or three times, I want to say. And every time Trayon has signed on to it. So we know that within this work that it's going to take a lot more effort with him to to fight for this, but we already know that it's already set in stone where he's gonna go, and that a lot of that has to do with his work, and a lot of that has to do with what he wants to do, and not more so what he needs to do. So I think that's where it is. Like I think a lot of it is like him, yeah, or them, all of them having like a I don't know how to say it, but a person in the air like you do this and this can't happen.
So
Type
so let
stuff.
so let me ask, because when we reach the bottom of the hour, we're gonna pause for a moment or two. But I just want to ask this question: has Black Swan, the participants of Black Swan, you guys, have you met with the council members in private meetings to talk about Black Swan and your work and what you like them to do and work with you on?
Yes.
We recently just had an advocacy week, I want to say last month, where we were at the council building for 2 days and we met with them, a couple of them virtually. So it was a whole like a 3 to 4 day 4 days of us talking in meetings with council by ourselves with all of the youth explaining the demands, explaining what they need, explaining and not only telling them what they need, but also giving them the tools and the alternatives to what they need. So it's not like they're just saying we need these things or you need to do this or remove this and put this. We're saying you need to remove this, put this in place, and this is how you can do this, and this is what you need to do this. So we've been in contact with them, and we talk to them every year, like in meetings. Like we have an advocacy week. We without advocacy week, we go and we testify on their the budget hearings, all of the things. So we're in their face a lot. Yes.
Fantastic. So, folks, we've reached the bottom of the hour, and I want to thank you for tuning in live and those who will be listening to the recording later on. We appreciate you taking time out to tune in to Education Town Hall here on We Act Radio, which is located in the heart of downtown Anacostia, Southeast, Ward 8, Washington, D.C. However, we are now coming to you live from our virtual platforms that I consider to be Anacostia adjacent. And we are so pleased and proud and privileged to have with us today the folks that from Black Swan. We had um, Jasmine Graham, who's a sophomore at Blue Knight, my alma mater. Tamari Short, who's a graduate of Eastern. Anisha Perry, who's a junior at Anacostia, as well as two staff members from Black Swan, which is Sion DeBose, who's the lead organizer, and their ED, executive director, Samantha Davis. So, Samantha, I want to come back to you real quick because this is something that I want to know. Give me a sense of the number of participants at and what schools that you're in the District of Columbia, and do you have plans to expand and increase your capacity? Do you have the ability, to expand? And are you communicating with other urban areas? Are you thinking about connecting with them or expanding into other urban areas? Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so we have formal partnerships with Hart Middle School, Kramer Middle School, Johnson, McKinley. Who am I missing?
Blue?
Sousa, on and off. And then we meet those young people. As you all heard, these young people have been with us since middle school. And so essentially we establish formal partnerships with our middle schoolers, and then we create a community space where high schoolers can join. And so we have high school representation from, I'm not going to get all of them, Ballou, Anacostia, Woodson, Eastern,
Maya.
yep. Idea Public Charter.
So you're saying you try to reach them in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
You try to reach them in middle school. That's when you make initial contact and you bring them into the organization. And I take it there's training involved or education involved.
Yeah.
And then you involve them in advocacy work and that kind of thing. And then you proceed with them up into high school. Now, in the case of Samari, you just graduated. So how would does a person like her who graduates, do they still have an opportunity to participate in Black Swan?
Yep. Samari or Sion, you want to answer that?
So I've been since middle school. I went through the process of being a youth advocate to being a youth leader, which is our high school course. So youth advocate is middle school, youth leader is high school. And once I graduated, I became an ambassador. And I worked with them while I was doing my post-secondary. So while we're in college or whatever we choose to do, we still have we're still in the program and still working with the program very closely. And if you choose so, after becoming an ambassador, you become a fellow, which is basically you become become a staff member, but you're working with either teams. Our programming, which is after school or summer programming, or our advocacy team who do all the like research and stuff work. And then you move on beyond that. If you become a staff member, that's what you do. But whatever you do, you're still in the program beyond high school and beyond. Yeah.
When we talk about youth leadership and building a pipeline of young people, we mean that both externally, encouraging our community leaders and encouraging our partners to create spaces for young people to lead. And we also mean that within Black Swan. So I just turned 35. I'm no longer a young person in many respects, right? And so we are building a staff. In many respects, we are building a staff of former youth leaders. We have about 10 people on staff. 4 of those staff members were former youth leaders within Black Swan.
So I'm gonna before I jump back to Valerie. I want to ask Jasmine. Jasmine, unmute yourself. So you go to Ballou, and by the way, you're about ready to get a new principal, Mr. Haith. I will probably be meeting with him one day between now and next week. He's a good guy. I want you to know, and he's a Ballou alum. So, but anyway, do you actually feel safe going to? Well, first of all, within the halls of the school itself, and then I'll ask you to kind of talk about going back and forth to school because they have this thing called safe passages, and I know, in the mornings and the afternoons, police are all over the place outside of the school. So, do you feel safe? Is that making you feel safe because the police are there, or you feel that if they're gone and if they're gone, will you also feel safe?
Um, it's kind of wishy-washy. When I walk to school, I don't feel safe just because I know like what can happen. Somebody can just come out the blue and just misfire somebody and shoot a gun, and it might hit me because I'm walking across the street. Or like when I'm at school and I'm walking down the halls, there's a lot of stuff going. There's a lot of noise, so you really don't know what's gonna happen. And since Blue is like in the middle of like all these different type of hoods, all the all the boys are gonna come to Blue with different type of gangs, and if they have beef, they're gonna try to sell it at Blue, and it's just a lot.
Okay. Anisha, you want to chime in on that? You have anything to share about your?
Attending attending Anacostia and like going to school while seeing police, I kind of feel like one Anacostia is in between two hoods, and I feel like that I do feel unsafe with me going to school and walking. Well, I don't walk; I get into a car, but I kind of feel like when I'm just outside doing something, or like leaving home from cheer practice or something like that, I feel unsafe that I can get just hit by a bullet anywhere. But like to be honest, in the morning stuff like that, seeing safe passages while I'm on the way to school and stuff like that, it's like it kind of like brightens my day a little bit. Like I like that safe passage is there. I don't like how the police like if the police were to be in the schools, I would say like remove their guns and their weapons while they're at our schools. But safe passages because they don't have no weapons and because they actually get along with the kids, like they actually talk to the kids and help the kids too. That I feel like that safe passage is way better.
And just one final thing I want to just chime in. So Jasmine, Mr. Hayes came from Anacostia. So Anisha, what since Mr. Hayes do you think he receptive to the work that Black Swan was doing and you as an individual? I mean, did you ever talk to him about this work?
Not really because when we were supposed to, but because he's leaving, we did. But also he was not like sometimes Principal Hicks wasn't always seen around the building. And when I did see him around the building, I really didn't talk to him about Black Swan stuff. I was talking to him about like SGA stuff. But like in SGA, I was talking about the stuff with Black Swan, and I don't know if it got like sent back to Principal Hicks or not.
Just
Oh,
so you know, it's SGA is the student government, right, Anisha?
Yeah, I was a 10th grade president.
but I would think that some of those things I would think that some of those things intersect because safety would probably be something that the SGA had on its agenda as well. Is that correct?
Say it again.
I would think that some of those things may have intersected. Your work with SGA and your work with Black Swan, they would probably intersect because I would think that safety would be a concern of the SGA as well. Is that correct?
Yes, because I remember one time the front door in the building of the front of the building door like wouldn't lock or something like that, and some people, some advocates from the SGA had to like email the I don't remember I think it's called like DHS or something like that, and
Oh,
they had to email
DGS.
them to get the front door fixed.
Yeah, DGS is the Department of
Yeah.
General Services, and they're responsible for the maintenance of all DCPS school buildings. I know this sadly, and yes, they're not always responsive, but thankfully, you and your classmates advocated, and
Yeah,
that
and also like our bathroom doors, like we didn't like had no locks on them, and we had to contact DGS to get them fixed. They
yeah.
still not fixed, but
So
So
this
go
just
ahead,
prompted me.
Valerie.
I have a question. I got to ask Jasmine and Anisha this since you're still in school. You've got, at least another year or two ahead of you. How, what can DC do to make you feel safer on the way to school, on the way from school, in school? Because you've just outlined things that kids elsewhere don't have to think about. They walk to school, they don't have to think about bullets flying. What can DC do to make you feel safer to and from school and in school.
I also want to highlight that although Samari is not in school, she also has siblings that's still in school. So I would like for her to
Oh,
like,
yes.
to make her
Thank you,
siblings.
please.
But
Samari.
and Jasmine, go ahead and mention,
Yeah, go ahead, jump in.
I think that they should add more like safe passage, violence interrupters, things from the community that can help the kids and like actually engage with the kids.
Jasmine,
Yes.
you have any
Adding on to what
comments?
Anisha said, but I really don't think it's nothing for them to do because at the end of the day, kids still gonna do what they want to do, and no matter if they do as safe passages, kids still gonna do what they want to do. So it's really nothing that DC could do.
Now let me jump in and say this. There've always been kids that didn't do the correct things or did things they shouldn't have done when I grew up. Um, but now I'm seeing there's a lot of young people at an earlier age that are becoming involved in criminal activities, and so then do you feel that there are a lot of those kids that are involved in the wrong things? Are they in your schools, and how do you think you can reach them to turn them around? Because as advocates, you want to work the system, you want to correct the system, but you also want to get other youth on the right path and involved in the positive things that you all are doing. Do you think about that much? Either one of you.
Okay, I'm gonna answer this. So I know you said there are a lot of younger youth getting involved in criminal activity, and one reason I think that not I think one reason I know that a lot of youth are getting involved in criminal activity is because they have no choice but to. They don't have, like, say if somebody was coming from a rough neighborhood, a bad neighborhood, that's all they're around. That's all they know. So that's what they take and that's what they put into the world. And because we don't have any working or attracting community centers, they can't go there. Because if they do, what is there to do? They ain't gonna do nothing but take what they learned from their communities, from their bad homes, and take it there. So I think a lot of that negative energy that they are producing, it comes from home and it comes from their communities. And if you're not getting your community stable enough or putting a good, like making a good environment for youth, that's not what they're going to put into the world. If you're putting somebody in a bad community, expect that they're going to act like they're from that bad community. That's what you need to expect. And then another fact is you have kids who move around a lot, and then like we said, you don't have kids who get the mental health support that they need. So they're just walking around spreading negative energy, spreading negative things, doing criminal activity because that's all they know, that's all they're prone to. But
Uh,
then again, another point is we have the mayor investing in things that are not helping youth at all. Like, you don't even have a housing budget big enough to reach all the people who are having trouble with housing living in your city.
so
You
Samari,
have these
I'm a,
high rise. Excuse me, I
Samari,
was.
you're getting into some stuff that we need 2 more hours to talk about. I want you did touch on something that I want to go to Samantha about because it's something dear to my heart as well, besides to be in the sector. She mentioned home and parents. Samantha, is with regard to your work with Black Swan, is there room for parents to be involved in the effort as well, and how do you work with them? Because I still have a program called Parents um, as Partners in Baloo and Anacostia and other schools, and we taught parents how to be the same thing you teach young people. We were teaching parents because they need to be involved. So it's how if or do you link up or do you do any work with parents? Is there any room for them in your organization?
Yeah, so it's an area that we are growing in outside of building a just authentic relationship with parents, right? We have their kids a lot, many of them for years. So we do have really close relationships with people's parents. We are still working on how do we then engage their parents directly in the Black Youth Agenda and the advocacy efforts that we're doing. So we're starting
Mhm.
to have like parent convenings for parents to learn what the young people are working on, to understand the Black Youth Agenda, to hear directly like how is this showing up in your household, and to lift up what Samari was saying. Like what we know is the issues that young people name are often due to the lack of resources that their parents are experiencing or that the communities are experiencing. Young people always moving around, right? That's something that's hitting the whole household. Gentrification, housing, that's something that's hitting the whole household. Communities that are bad because of lack of resources, that's something that's hitting the whole household. And so we do recognize the role that parents have and the impact this is having on parents. And we know when we center the voices of Black youth, that their stories, their issues are reflective of the issues of their parents.
Oh, I just got to ask the students, and Samari, I include you in this. If you were mayor, how would you invest in youth in DC? Because I think Samari really got to it. And I totally agree that the mayor is invested in stuff that's not helping youth at all. And, the stuff that she has done for youth, I think I view it as sort of incremental. And, it's not as, as, as Miss Davis said, as radical an investment as it needs to be. So I just wanted to ask, you're the mayor of Washington, D.C. How would you change the budget, the investments to help youth?
Okay, I'm gonna answer this because I've had talking to people. Plenty of people told me that I should run for mayor. Um,
Run.
so
Please.
basically, what I'm gonna say is, I think a lot, even though investing, like taking the budget and investing it into more things like housing and community safety and community centers and stuff like that, I think that that is a good idea to start. But it also boils down to actually going out there and making sure it's getting done, because that's the problem. They say that, oh, the mayor's putting this into this, but nobody ever sees it. Like, no, none of the schools see it, none of the kids see it, none of the teachers see it. Teachers are coming out of their own pocket to pay for stuff in school. So it's like, it's not about the matter of investing, it's about making sure that it's getting done. A lot of things in the communities and in the schools are not getting done, and that's because the mayor is not doing her job and making sure that the people who are working under her and that she's giving this money to, and the council members as well, they are not making sure people are doing their job. It shouldn't take 3 to 4 years for y'all to finally go into a school and fix bathroom doors. Like, it shouldn't take that much time, especially when y'all have people who out here are homeless and they need jobs. Why not go somebody out here who needs a job, give them the job? It's a lot of things that can go into fixing these things and investing in these things that we need, but they're not getting done because people are not using their heads and they're only investing in one part of the city, which is not helping the other parts of the city.
So either Jasmine or Nisha, you want to chime in on that because we're running out of time. So I want to get as much in as possible.
Um, to add on to what Samaria said about them investing in like certain stuff, it also chimes in with the mayor wanting to just like put youth inside of jails for like no entire reason. I mean, you putting them in jail for their trials for no entire reason. I feel like that if the mayor was to invest in more resources for these kids, something like then Muriel Bowser, the Muriel Barrel, I don't know how to say it, the MBSYEP, if they was to increase the amount of that money that we are working for, I talked about this on Twitter yesterday, but if they were to increase the number of money that we are getting, that I feel like that Marion Barry, I feel like that we would be able to provide for ourselves or even help our families more out and not have to like do certain stuff for or like go to jail or like get in trouble for certain stuff that we're trying to like like sacrifice for our family or like help our family and give for our family. Like we wouldn't have to be in trouble for stuff like that if she was to increase like budgets on stuff and also invest her money into more stuff like Bread for the City, put more stuff like Bread for the City in the city and places where you can go and you can get stuff like resources for your family like twice a day. I mean twice a week.
Now, I just want to say, disclosure: WEAC Radio has participated in some youth program ever since WEAC Radio has been in existence. So we try to do our part. But I know that we're running out of time. But and I know that you guys got some ambitious planning in the works with regard to your summer program. Can anyone talk about what is in store for this summer? What are you guys going to be up to? You want to touch on that?
Okay, so oh, y'all can hear me, right? Okay, yeah. Okay, so this summer we have a couple of things happening. I want to first start with our Summer Organizing Institute. This institute, this is like our third year doing the institute. So every year we highlight about 4 or 5 issues to work on for 5 weeks straight. We bring youth and community youth, not just youth in Black Swan, but youth in our community to learn about things like community organizing, relationship building, power mapping, and things of that nature. So that's
Have you identified
happening.
have you identified the issues yet?
Um, so so the 4 issues that we have on our agenda are the issues that we're gonna highlight this summer during our organizing institute, which
Okay.
is mental health and healthcare, sanitation in schools, gun violence, and housing, and we're gonna highlight those. Do and the each of the themes of the 5 weeks is community organizing, power mapping, relationship building, and what is it? Uh, campaign development. Oh yes,
And,
and campaign development. There you go,
and,
campaign
and
development.
so let me say this: gun violence in and of itself is a huge issue. So
Well, it's not just gun violence; it's violence in general. Not because
okay,
violence comes
okay.
in different forms.
Well, we'll just take the gun off and just say violence is a huge issue in and of
Oh,
itself.
really? It's really safety in schools, safety in
Oh,
general, just safety.
okay.
Hey, Thomas, I was
Mhm.
wondering if we could let Jasmine answer the question that the others answered with regard to if you were mayor,
Mhm.
how would you support youth better? Jasmine, did you want to weigh in?
Okay.
It's fine if you
And
don't.
and also when you said, if I was mayor, I would add more shelters for homeless people. I would add more shelter for homeless people. I would create more rec centers. Like the Boys and Girls Club, that was a big little thing back then for kids to come and play in a gym and stuff, and they would have activities for kids to do after school. Like if we had more rec centers, I feel as though that people wouldn't be on like as many people on the street now. I don't think it would be as many of them now if we had more rec centers and just more organizations that do things for kids with kids.
And so I've got to get to this because I got to go to the executive director on this. So since your organization Black Swan has been in existence, do you think you've moved the needle with regard to what you're trying to achieve, and how do you measure that progress?
Yeah, so in some ways, yes. In other ways, we are in a cycle of making progress and then taking steps back and fighting. I do believe that since we started, that there is a drastic difference in at least the effort to center youth voice in conversations. We're seeing more community based organizations trying to figure out how to create places for young people to lead. We were seeing for a period of time, even the council having like specific roundtables and conversations and hearings just for young people, both at the Wilson Building and in the community. And so I do think there has been some progress in just the need or the understanding of the need to enhance youth voice and center young people's leadership. On a policy perspective, there has been some things that Black Swan has been able to be a part of, from getting more funding for mental health supports in schools, for violence interrupters, for creating different policies and practices around dress code, right there. We were successfully able to start reducing police from schools and creating and supporting the School Safety Enhancement Act, which Zachary Parker just introduced. And so we're certainly seeing forward moving steps to address the issues that we are working on. And at the same time, we are seeing increased opposition, right? And so it's a cyclical nature.
And I believe the council is now backing away from
Exactly.
the legislation that y'all helped craft. Can you speak just a little bit about that? How are you going to proceed from here?
Yeah. So over the past 3 years, young people have successfully worked with the council to phase out police from schools, with the demand to radically invest in our schools. The budget that was just passed a couple weeks ago did repeal that phase out. It didn't put more money. I want to be clear. It did not put more money in the budget to actually increase police in schools. However, in the future, in theory, there could be more police added to schools. What we also have done, though, is the School Safety Enhancement Act, or Zachary Parker has introduced the School Safety Enhancement Act, that creates the process for the Deputy Mayor's Office on Education and other government agencies, young people and parents and educators, to be able to have non-carceral, non-police safety resources in their schools. These are full-time personnel, non-law enforcement, who will actually be responsible for building out a holistic safety team of violence interrupters, mental health supports, mutual aid coordinators, et cetera, to be the alternative to policing in our schools. And so that part is moving forward.
Is that system wide? Is that system wide?
It is system wide.
And when is that? Scheduled to commence?
So the committee will start, it was put in the budget. So the committee that is going to be kind of putting the job descriptions together, starting putting the criteria for what a safety plan needs to entail that is non-carceral, that should be starting, I guess, the beginning of the school year. Okay. We'll see that. And then the hiring of those folk still needs to go through like the budget process to make sure there's money, but in theory, it will happen the following school year.
Wow. Can you believe it? We've gone an hour. That's what I was saying a minute ago. We need 2 more hours because there's so much more to discuss. Because Samantha, you hit it. There are issues that affect homes that have nothing to do with schools, and you know, and those are the root causes of some of the issues, the trauma that ends up in schools. And so there's such a broad range of topics to discuss, but we just don't have the time right now. But I want you to know, you all are friends of the Education Town Hall. You all are always welcome to come back. Samantha, if there's anything I can do, because I'm a former this, that, and the other around the community, we'll talk offline about that. Because but I will lend my support any way I can to Black Swan. So
we absolutely appreciate that.
We've been talking to the executive director, Samantha Davis of Black Swan Academy, also of Black Swan Academy, Sion DeBose, who's the lead organizer. And we pleased and privileged to talk to you students. We love you. Jasmine Graham, sophomore at Ballou, Shamari Short, who graduated this year from Eastern, and Anisha Perry, who's a junior at Akasha. We thank you all for joining the Education Town Hall here on We at Radio. I want to thank Virginia Spatz, our technical director, who put this technical piece together. I want to thank Valerie Jablo, my associate producer. And I want to thank you, all of you who have tuned into the show. because we know you had choices. Until we meet again, be good to somebody. Peace.